Hello and welcome to another episode of The Buzz. I'm your host, Dion Spires. On today's episode, we're focusing on the lives of the students here at Florida Polytechnic University and all of the exciting things that they're accomplishing right here in Polk County. Stay tuned for a look at two of Florida Poly's brightest students.
Florida Poly offered a lot more than just the opportunity to learn. They offered the opportunity to start something new, to be part of something completely fresh, be a part of, or have the opportunity to create your own mascot, start your own clubs, be the first of everything at a university. So that was one of the huge opportunities that I saw that no other college could offer. Being a part of something new, it gives me something that I can bring to employers after college that a lot of other kids straight out of college can't bring, because they're part of something that's already been established and they keep to the status quo of what's already been rather than having to create something from scratch. My major is advanced technology, and I have a concentration in health informatics, which is the technology in the medical field. They focused a lot on the analytics part of it, so all medical records now are going electronic, with electronic medical records, electronic health records, and they need somebody to kind of manage that data and be able to pull useful information out of it for the medical staff, and that's kind of what they're training me to do. Well, I have always wanted to do something medical, and when I was in high school I took a technology class, and that really sparked my interest in, improving efficiency. I would say is a huge plus for technology, and if you can go through hundreds of thousands of paper sheets in a matter of hours with technology that used to take days, weeks, months to go through without it, that'd be a huge improvement and, promote patient satisfaction, patient care, and give the doctors more time to really pay attention to the patients. Because my parents are both nurses, and they have noticed there's a huge jump in paperwork time that takes away from the time with the patient. So they end up, writing on sheets rather than hands-on with the patient, really getting to know what the problem is. It was actually a team effort of 4 students that were in a health informatics elective class. When we started the class, it was the implementation of electronic medical records and electronic health records. And so we were trying to learn how to use electronic health and medical records to improve patient care. So one of the things that we were looking at is chronic disease and how, like, the percentage of patients that has and the amount of patients that it takes up in the waiting room and the emergency room. And there's just a lot of people that with their left to their own devices can't manage their chronic illness. So what our motivation was to get them out of the emergency room, because at that point it was too late and they needed emergency care, and take the medical portion to their house so that they themselves could take their health and take their lifestyle into their own hands, and use this app to help manage their lifestyle, manage their medication, with the help of this app and a medical staff coach. My mom works in the emergency room, and she said it would be fantastic to get that space where the chronically ill patients are taking up for someone who just was in an accident and they need that emergency treatment. So if you can prevent it before they get to the emergency room, it would be so much easier, and just a better environment for the emergency room. And then my dad works hospice, so he sees the long-term effects of chronic disease, and he says that there's people in a lot of pain that if they would have taken care of themselves the right way throughout their life, and it's not their fault most of the time, they just may not have the understanding of what's going on or the guidance to help them through this process, that they would be in a lot less pain at the end of their years. You think about college and you envision like these huge lecture halls and hundreds of students with one professor, but it really is a different culture here. You have your professor with maybe 20 other students, and that health course I was talking about, there was only 4 of us. So we really got to know our professor on more than just an academic level. We have created, I think, a partnership with them that'll last a lot longer than somebody in a lecture hall where you're just a number. I would eventually like to start my own company, just because I really enjoy the idea of starting something that you can call your own and you can, be a part of. So I like the idea of starting my own company, finding a need, and then creating a product to fit that need. But I would need some industry experience first. So I would say probably 10 years or so of experience in the hospital, in the medical field, working with, I'd like to stay local in Florida, so maybe Florida Hospital in Orlando or Celebration, or I'm from Sebring, which is an hour south of here, so maybe there, but starting there and then creating my own business to fit the need of whatever I find in the industry.
STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And that covers a wide variety of things. That even ties into different arts and other disciplines just because it is so various. I knew I wanted to do STEM, and I was looking at different colleges in the state, but they all seem kind of big. I'm not like into the crazy party scene or anything, and I was like, I want to do something cool, like I'm focused, I'm ready. And I saw that it was going to be like a small community set of just STEM focused students, and I was like, that is where I want to be. Seems like a cool place right between Tampa and Orlando. Has some good connections there, and I've loved it. There's always something going on, like ideas happening, just lots of brainstorming, and I really like that. We're all connected. Like, even though it may not be like somebody that you know well, I can just go up to anybody and be like, hey, did you read about like high density DNA storage? And they're like, yes, I have. Isn't that so cool? And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. And I just really like that. Everybody's really pumped about science here. In my high school, I went to Hillsborough High School in Tampa. We had a physics teacher who was very involved in doing hands-on activities, and I specifically remember he tied a bowling ball to one of the pipes in the ceiling. He removed a tile, and he was like, yep, it's not gonna hit me in the face. I know it's not going to, and I was like, are you sure? Like, I don't wanna be here for this, but he was going over the measurements for that, and I was like, science is pretty cool. Like, if you can trust that, like, it must be a pretty okay thing to go into. I picked mechanical engineering with nanotechnology because the idea of that just sounds crazy. Like working with tiny things at a molecular level, and there's so many applications for it, especially in the space industry, so that's what I went for. So far, I'd say some of the most exciting things I've done, I've built a bridge out of popsicle sticks that I got to stand on because it was strong enough, yes, and I thought it'd be fun to jump on it and break it instead of just throwing it away whole. So I also did that. Last week, I synthesized gold nanoparticles in our lab. So that was really exciting. That's a fun thing to put on the resume. And let's see, I've done lots of hands-on projects, which I love. But besides that, it's a lot of math. That's fun to me. Not fun to everybody, but I like it. But lots of hands-on, and that's great. So I do a lot of outreach as well. We met with some people in the Lakeland area, and they're like, hey, our daughters go to MIT. They organize this event. Would you guys like to go? And I was like, heck yeah, like that sounds great. So we got to pick the topic, and I thought it'd be fun to do the science behind the magic of Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. And Universal's basically that way. So we contacted them, and we spoke with their VP for Universal Creative, which is their engineering. And they gave us some tips on how to tell like the secrets behind like invisibility cloaks and gillyweed and the way their wands work, which is some top secret stuff. But it was really cool to talk about. The kids loved it. We did an invisibility lab with different lenses and focal points, which will make something disappear. So it's kind of like how science can bring magic to the Muggle world. Just the fact that I might have inspired them to travel on with their STEM career that's amazing. I love that. I took biology here, and that's another class that requires an end of the semester project, and you had to tie biomimicry to your major and then your interest as well if you wanted to. So I was like, all right, nanotechnology, space of course, and I went from there. And I like tardigrades. If you've ever seen Cosmos, they're like this little water bear. They have like crazy little arms and legs and like a weird vacuum mouth, but it's really cool. And I was like, I want to do something with that. I like that. So we looked into it, did some like really basic Googling, and found that trehalose might be something that helps with their radiation shielding because they can survive in space. So we went from there and we're like, well, what if we add that to a different organism? Let's see what happens. So we did that. I ended up winning the Faculty Choice for Innovation, which was pretty cool because that makes me feel like I did something right. And I was like, I want to keep going with this. I brought it to two of my professors, and they're like, let's apply for a grant. I was like, whoa, like, okay, that sounds great. So we really didn't think that there was going to be much of a chance. I'm a sophomore, like it's a new school, so we were going to wait and see, and they were like, we love the idea, that's great. NASA's really focusing on space life sciences, so they're like, we want to see where this goes. So it's been pretty cool since. Okay, so right now we're working on the baseline of it, and I've been working with Tetrahymena, which is a teeny tiny microorganism. And I've been chasing them around with an inverted microscope for quite some time. That's been most of my week. But we're working to use that in trehalose. It's a sugar compound, and we're going to add them together and measure the effects of radiation in hopes that it'll block it. And that'll be used later on, of course, not this stage, but it'll help astronauts, it'll help any biologicals that are in space, or back to that DNA storage, that would work for that too, which is really cool. So the whole idea of like on the shoulder of giants, the fact that everything builds on each other, really keeps me motivated to go on, and like, let's just say it doesn't work out for some crazy reason. This is still a project that can be like published and talked about, and this is something that someone else won't have to recreate. And if it does work out, somebody can build off it from that. So just the fact that what I'm doing will change like science in some way is enough to keep me going throughout anything.
Now that I've had a chance to chat with two of Florida Poly's brightest students, I invite you to join me at a recent event that was held right here on campus focusing on women in STEM. That's all coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned.
Minds can achieve anything. We make sure they get to college. Federal student aid provides more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds to make college possible for anyone with the mind to get there. Because if given the chance, minds will do great things. Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
Did you know that walking just 10,000 steps a day helps keep you healthy? And it's easy. 20 minutes of grocery shopping is 1,600 steps. Daily housework is 270. Taking a half-hour walk during lunch, around 4,000 steps. You can see how this adds up. 10,000 steps will find you a healthy weight and even reduce your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. Feeling healthier starts with the first step. A message from the Florida Department of Health.
Well, when I was invited to sit on this panel and talk to you about women in STEM, I immediately started researching the topic, and I found the shocking statistic that 1 in 6 or 7 STEM students and professionals are women. Only 1 in 6 or 7. And I began to think about it, and I said, I don't need to know that number. I'm not defined by that. I am the 1 in 6 or 7. Like many of you are the 1 in that statistic. And so this quote came to mind, and it says, the way in which we think of ourselves has everything to do with how our world sees us. So I just chose that I was going to focus on the 1 and not the 6 and the 7. And I will assure you, though, that I have endured in my 32-year career many comments, for instance, that I would never be a manager with that long blonde hair. I've had catcalls on the General Motors plant floor where I was an engineer and a robotics programmer, and numerous things like that through the course of my career, but I was determined to say that that was just noise, and those were never going to stop me from doing what I love and loving what I do. And I will say this, though, that I do care about that statistic now, because I'm at a point in my life where I think that I can mentor and encourage women to break those stats. And I hope that my career story might be interesting and inspiring to somebody. So I wanted to just tell you a little bit about my journey. I was incredibly fortunate to grow up in a home with two wonderful educated parents, and they truly are my heroes. I've been surrounded by career women who define strength and decisiveness together with intuition and emotional connection all my life. My mother, my grandmother, my sister. And it was my father who told me in high school that I could choose engineering as my college major because in my home life, there was no gender differentiation. And when I started college, I barely noticed that my friend Marie and I were often the only girls in the class. We just decided to work hard and learn our field of study. So my first job was at General Motors car factory in Flint, Michigan, where I programmed paint robots. And I could have stayed and enjoyed a nice pension by now. But I wanted to hit the road and see the world. So after 5 years, I quit my job, I sold everything, and I bought a one-way airplane ticket to the island of Guam, on the other side of the world. And I had nothing but $600 in my pocket, a duffel bag, and a STEM degree. And that last part is really important. And with that, I landed a terrific job in Mobil Oil, and I got 5 years of traveling all over Micronesia and the Asia-Pacific Rim, doing computer engineering and information technology. And by then, I wanted to be a little closer to my family, so I did it again. I packed up and moved, this time to Hawaii, where I spent 12 years leading IT in international law firms. And now here I am in Florida as an executive in IT in the healthcare industry. And well, that's a bit of a sad story about how I came here, and I don't see any tissues, so I'm going to skip that part. But the point I'm trying to make is that my love of science and math has been my ticket to the most fabulous career in all sorts of industries, and my ticket to go and be immersed in any culture that I wanted to, anywhere in the world, and any time I wanted to.
Okay. Well, as you can see, I've got this really great passion for doing and being. And one of the things that I have found is that if you align that passion that I just talked about with your vision for your life, what you really truly love, you will become great in whatever that application is. So I always wanted to be an architect since I was like 15 years old. Because I knew how to cook and sew and knit and all of those things, I chatted with my parents, who were an incredible parenting team. I give them so much credit for who I am today, obviously. But I said, God, do I have to take home ec? Because there's shop class, and my dad was really into shop, and it was very creative, a rocket scientist nonetheless. And so, of course, it was like, sure, take shop. So I took shop class, and our first project was to design and build a model home. And so I was the only girl in my class, and the only girl in my school in shop class, and certainly the only woman that competed when we competed with the surrounding junior high schools. And my house won. And I'm like, this is so cool. You know, that feeling of I did something that I truly loved, but then it was recognized and it was discussed and it became kind of the catalyst. So guess what? I wanted to be an architect. My whole life from that point on, I wanted to be an architect. So I got to school and I was studying architecture when I realized working in the summers that I hated architecture. And I'm like, oh, damn, because that was really my whole vision, right? But it wasn't as though I hated the design part, the STEM versus the entrepreneurial, the chemist versus the business person. I didn't like the practice of architecture. And so having to get a master's degree, I had, these kind of choices of maybe go into business and work around architecture, or instead, let me go see what's going on in the College of Construction. I ultimately made the choice to be in construction and get my master's. And let me tell you what, you guys, what an amazing kind of haphazard step that was. And I, from that moment forward, have felt the greatest passion. I'm still in and around architecture, but I'm on the dynamic side. I'm not drawing or scheduling, plumbing schedules, or back in the day when we used to have ink on vellum and not computers. So it was really an amazing kind of slight shift to the left. And it became my superhighway that allowed me to vent the passion that I feel for architecture in the field of construction, and it has been an amazing journey. And again, I'm going to give all the credit in the world to making sure that when you have a thought or an idea or a vision, make sure you really feel it strongly. If somebody says to you, gosh, you'd make a great doctor one day, but you really want to be a contractor, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Go be a great contractor instead of a good doctor, because the passion that you feel for that vision is what's going to make you really stand up and stand out. And then you add that to a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit and you're off and running. And like Elizabeth, I was oftentimes the only woman in the classroom, and then it became the only woman in the meeting or the only woman on the job site. But you know, it really didn't affect me. I was raised by parents that's like, yeah, go for it. If that's what you want to do, go do that. That sounds great. And so I never really felt it to be odd. The good, the bad, and the ugly, there's all of that. One of the things that I have shared with people that get into non-traditional fields, obviously construction, as much as I hate to report this, is still non-traditional for women. And I think that women bring a different vision to how to accomplish the same goal that has made our industry that much better. You know, I just think that look past the ugly. It's not going to change. As I share with the young ladies, we're coming into a world that has traditionally and is mostly still a man's world. But so what? So what? I sit at the table, and as it turns out, my journey with architecture and construction, I have a different opinion than someone that's just purely construction or someone that's just purely architecture. So imagine becoming, there's the rainbow and the bow, that connection in the early part of my career where I was really able to say, hey, calm down, we don't have to make it square, and look at the architect and say, you know, you're from Boston, you're not from around here, are you? And, you know, kind of have fun with that bridging and the compassion and sensitivity to both concerns and both issues. And so, you know what, how and where do you find in life that it's all rainbows and, you know, blossoms every single day? It's no different in your career. Do what you do with tremendous excellence and conviction. Make sure that you have the passion to drive you past the obstacles and go for it. You know, like Elizabeth said, be that one. But when you are that one and you get to the point of having enough time to breathe, make sure you reach back and pull somebody up so that we have 2 and 3 and 7 and 10.
Beautiful. I love that.
A little bit of background. I'm a sophomore at the University of Tennessee in nuclear engineering, and when my mother initially invited me to come to this conference, I was like, that sounds great, Mom, because right now I'm a woman in STEM, but I've recently, this last semester, found out that I really don't like calculus and physics, which unfortunately is the basics for most engineering. So my question is, with all 3 of you and all the fields that you've worked in and all the different types of people you've worked with, what would you say is one of the best transitions that somebody who thought that they would be a great engineer or would do very well engineering is like, maybe that's not for me, but this would also be a great decision?
I'll just start that real quick. That's a question for yourself. Remember, you can't ask somebody to help you find your passion. You have to find and feel your passion and then ask people, you know, I really love X. How do you think I should direct my education to support the best position being introduced into that field? I cannot state enough, you guys, if you are not lined up, mind, body, soul, your passion isn't behind your endeavor, you're only gonna maybe ever be good. You're never gonna be great. So this is so important that before you ask somebody who you should be, that you kind of explore within yourself. And you know, I would even consider that even though you don't like calculus and engineering, whatever that was, I would, before I gave it up, because apparently you did have passion for it, I'd get somebody to help tutor you through that, because it may be a fear that you feel because you maybe didn't have a good foundation and an understanding of the fundamentals of that course, to make sure that you do everything you can before you change your vector direction.
I might also add, internships are a fabulous way to really explore different careers in STEM. I have taken interns just about every semester at the hospital for people who are interested in an IT or a healthcare career, but not just sure how they fit. And they've been able to really find areas that where their passion does come alive.
I would just suggest that understand that as somebody that's in STEM, what you're really learning. It's not just ones and zeros or whatever the technical thing is, because I'll be honest with you, whatever you're learning now is going to be obsolete in not very much longer. But think about some of the skills that you're learning. Logic, research, experimentation, problem solving. And then find me anything worth doing in life that doesn't require those skills, whether it's in business, counseling, education, government. So I would just tell you the discipline, the mental discipline and the skills that you learn in a STEM program apply to virtually anything, and you can transition and you don't have to go any farther to look than virtually every business sector, every government sector. Find the profession that doesn't have people that need those skills, and if you can find it, come talk to me.
My name is Teresta. I'm a student here at Florida Polytechnic University. I have a question for the people on the board. STEM is generally a hard field for women because we're all scared a little bit of math and science, and we're like, it's a men-dominated thing. I don't think you can do it. And my dad's like, be a doctor. You can do that. I wanted to ask, how do you deal with obstacles and feeling like you're ready to quit at some point? Like maybe this is definitely not for you, but you're like, I'm almost there, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I'm really into this.
Well, everybody encounters those, men and women, in STEM and out of STEM. I would just say that find your tribe, find those people that can support you and that you can talk to.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be quiet times in your life and moments of doubt, weeks of doubt. I mean, I can't even tell you through the journey of over 30 years that there were days I'm like, how are we ever going to, build that revenue back, and how, you feel that sense. But that's where the passion kicks in. And I'm going to wear the word out because it really is the endless fuel supply to give you the momentum to go and reach out to somebody, to give you the momentum to look inside and to believe stronger in yourself. That's why it's so vitally important. That's when you're going to be great, is because of the downtime while you are in the course of your life. If you don't have that passion kicked in, you're going to find it very difficult to get over the ugly, mountains that face you. And as Elizabeth said, it's not unique to women in non-traditional fields. It's not unique to STEM. It's unique to every human. And you just have to really, build that core. And so during the times now that you're formulating the rest of your life, you might want to think about how you can have a stronger connection to that passion.
Do not let other people define you. You define you. And you don't have to take the obstacles that other people throw down in your path. So I would just tell you, step one, be about yourself and be about overcoming those obstacles, and don't let other people try to shape you and keep you from being what you want to be. The second thing I think is important is a network. That support structure, sometimes it does help you over some of those rough times. And so I would just say, look, if you walk out of this room today and you don't have 3 cards or 3 names and phone numbers or emails or something, shame on you. Get to know people. And networking is about giving, not about getting. But if you establish a network and you go out of your way to try to help other people and to give to them, when you do have it, one of those times of need, you'll be surprised how many people come out to help you.
I hope you enjoyed this look at some of Florida Polytechnic University's top talent and the STEM industry. If you'd like to see this episode again, you can catch it on PGTV on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 1 and 7 p.m. or find us on our Polk Government YouTube page. Thank you for joining me once again, and I'll see you next month on The Buzz.